In the next session of the poem Went to the Sessions of Sweet Silent Thought, we will try to analyze the poem. Let us take a look at the themes of the poem. The theme of the pain of memory. In Sonnet 30, the speaker rehashes all the injuries and disappointments of life. Dead friends, lost pleasures, squandered opportunities. Squandered means wasted opportunities. For the speaker, neither memory nor time itself diminishes the pain of these losses. Just to think about them brings them back in their full power and difficulty. Indeed, the speaker suggests that memory itself is a powerful source of pain. The speaker of Sonnet 30 has a lot of regrets and disappointments. And as soon as the speaker starts to reminisce about things past, these regrets and disappointments come flocking in, overwhelming the speaker. The speaker broods over the lack of many a thing I sought. In other words, about missed opportunities. The speaker also weeps over old friends, long dead. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow, for precious friends hid in death's dateless night. The speaker grieves lost loves too, love's long since cancelled woe. The first 12 lines of the poem thus constitute a long, exhaustive list of all the things the speaker grieves and regrets. Strikingly, these disappointments and sorrows don't seem to have faded with time. Time usually takes the sting out of grief and disappointment. But that is not the case for this speaker. The speaker no sooner thinks of some forebemoan moan than the speaker has to new pay as if not paid before. In other words, the speaker endures the pain all over again, and it feels just as fresh and sharp as before. It is as though no time has passed at all. The first 12 lines of the poem are thus dark and full of despair. The speaker occupies a world in which no one ever really heals, where hurt and pain last forever without subsiding or becoming bearable. Subsiding means reducing. And reflecting on the past, remembering it, only brings that pain back with all its power and difficulty. The theme of the power of love. The speaker of Sonnet 30 spends most of the poem in despair, obsessively meditating on past disappointments, regrets, and sorrows. The speaker can't find any relief. Even the passage of time does not heal these wounds. As we discuss in this guide's theme, entry on the pain of memory, remembering these griefs is like enduring their pain all over again. But in the final 2 lines of the poem, the speaker finally announces that there is something that makes up for all these losses and disappointments, and that is love. After the speaker's intense despair in the first 12 lines, the couplet that closes the poem provides a sudden and unexpected relief. The speaker reveals that there is a way to compensate for disappointment and sorrow. All the speaker has to do is think about thee, a dear friend, and all losses are restored and sorrows end. In other words, the speaker feels powerfully about the dear friend, so powerfully that simply thinking about this dear friend is enough to dispel, meaning remove, the obsessive negative thoughts that pursue the speaker. Sonnet 30 on its own does not tell the reader who the dear friend is or what kind of relationship the dear friend has with the speaker. It could be read simply as a poem in praise of the transformative power of friendship, which alone, it seems, can heal the wounds that life inflicts. But in the broader context of Shakespeare's 154 sonnets, it is clear who this dear friend is. He is the beautiful young man whom Shakespeare's speaker obsessively quotes and praises in sonnets 1 to 126. In other words, the speaker of this poem, if the reader takes the poem in the broader context of the sequence, isn't just saying that friendship makes things better. Rather, the speaker is insisting that love, passionate, erotic love between two people, supplies all the pleasures, hope, and solace necessary to survive life's disappointments and sorrows. Sonnet 30 went to the sessions of sweet silent thought. Let us now take a look at the symbols. The symbol of night. Night is a symbol of the afterlife, the place where the dead go. For the speaker, death is dark, timeless space. It is dateless, in other words, never ending, eternal. There is no hope or light in it. Once someone sinks into death, they are lost forever. They cannot be restored to life. This symbol of the afterlife thus links to the overall sense of despair, of hopelessness, the speaker feels in the first 12 lines of the poem. This treatment of the afterlife is remarkably atheistic, for a poem written in a culture where regular attendance at church was mandatory, meaning compulsory. The speaker emphatically does not imagine these precious friends in heaven, enjoying eternal life. Indeed, the symbol may be said to exclude the Christian hope of resurrection from the poem. Resurrection means rising. This word is used for Jesus Christ rising from his grave after 3 days on Easter Sunday. Only love itself, erotic love, can restore the loss the speaker feels so intensely. Sonnet 30 went to the sessions of sweet silent thought, poetic devices and figurative language. The first device is alliteration. Sonnet 30 is a strongly alliterative poem. I may remind you, dear students, that the definition of the word alliteration was given to you when we looked at the analysis of the previous poem by Shakespeare, and that is Went to the Sessions of Sweet Silent Thought. You can look it up in the notes that I share with you. Most of its lines contain at least some alliteration, meaning repetition of sound, and that alliteration tends to be strong and noticeable. The poem's frequent use of alliteration helps it feel elegant and refined. Even though it describes dark obsessive thoughts, it is a poem of unusual beauty. One can feel the tension between the poem's elegant beauty and its dark content in line 4. And with old woes, new wail, my dear time's waste. The W sound is being repeated. An alliterative W sound runs through the line, linking together all the bad things it describes: old woes, wailing, and my dear time's waste. The W sound emphasizes the way old and new are mingled together in the speaker's mind, the way the speaker tries and fails to get over past injuries. These are sad, hard things to contemplate and describe, but the W sound links them together in an elegant and powerful way. The reader might wonder why a poem about obsession and despair is so elegant, so carefully composed. The answer comes in the poem's final 2 lines, where the speaker reveals that there is one way to get over past injuries and disappointments: to think on thee, dear friend. In other words, The speaker's love for the dear friend allows the speaker to move past grief. The alliteration between think and thee emphasizes the powerful connection between the dear friend and the speaker's thoughts. The way simply thinking about the dear friend is enough to reshape the speaker's thoughts. The poem is thus an elegant tribute to the power of love in general and to the speaker's love for the dear friend in particular. The first 12 lines serve to set up this tribute. They are so elegant, so rich with alliteration, because their true purpose is not to dwell on despair and grief, but to set up a refined compliment to someone the speaker truly loves. The next poetic device is metaphor. Sonnet 30 is a highly metaphorical poem. Again, I'll remind you that the definition of metaphor has been given to you with the poem When to the Sessions of Sweet Silent Thought. The speaker uses metaphor throughout the first 12 lines to describe the powerful effect of memory. Indeed, the speaker opens with the poem with a suggestive metaphor for memory itself. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought, I summon up remembrance of things past. Here the speaker compares thinking to sessions. In Renaissance England, sessions were the periods of the year when court was in session, when judges sat to hear trials. In other words, the speaker imagines thinking as a legal proceeding. Memory is not something pleasant, something the speaker engages in gladly. Instead, it is a tribunal, in other words, a court, and the speaker is on trial. कोर्ट जिसको हम न्यायालय कहते हैं हिंदी में. This suggests from the very start of the poem that the speaker feels guilty, that the speaker's memories lead to pain and self-recrimination, not joy or nostalgia. The speaker turns to metaphor several more times in the heart of the poem. The speaker compares weeping to drowning an eye, another dark image suggesting the depth of the speaker's despair. And in line 6, the speaker compares death to hid in death's dateless night, to being shrouded in pitch black eternity. Shrouded means covered. In other words, the speaker feels that lost friends are inaccessible. In other words, you cannot reach them. Permanently lost. These metaphors reinforce the speaker's sense of deep disillusionment and despair. As the poem progresses, the speaker keeps listing more and more disappointments and sorrows. The speaker seems obsessive, unable to stop fixating on these losses. The speaker acknowledges this in a complex metaphor that runs through lines 10 to 12, and heavily from woe to woe tell over the sad account of four bemoaned moan, which I knew pay as if not paid before. The speaker compares these disappointments and sorrows to an account. In other words, a bill or a debt. Debt is कर्ज. Something the speaker has to pay. बिल का जैसे हम भुगतान करते हैं या कर्ज चुकाते हैं, इस तरीके से. But the speaker has to pay this account again. The speaker must new pay as if not paid before. Again इसलिए, दोबारा इसलिए क्योंकि जब वो घटना पहले घटी थी, स्पीकर ने आंसू बहाए थे तब. आज उसी दुख को, गम को याद करके वो दोबारा से आंसू बहा रहा है. The speaker thus compares grief and sorrow to a financial transaction, a particularly cruel one, in which the speaker must pay the same debt over and over again without any reduction in the penalty or obligation. This is a complex and odd metaphor, but its message is relatively clear. The speaker's sorrow does not lessen over time. Instead, each time the speaker remembers a grief or disappointment, it feels as sharp and painful as ever. Now we'll take a look at the form, meter, and rhyme scheme of Sonnet 30. First, a look at the form. Sonnet 30 is a Shakespearean sonnet. This means it follows a set form. The poem has 14 lines in a single stanza. It's written in iambic pentameter and it has a distinctive rhyme scheme. Although Shakespeare did not invent the Shakespearean sonnet, he did popularize it, and he wrote more than 150 of them in his lifetime, making him the acknowledged master of the form. Actually, he wrote 154 sonnets in all. The Shakespearean sonnet is divided into two sections. The first 12 lines, which can be broken down further into quatrains, meaning stanzas of 4 lines each, and in the final 2 lines, which form a rhyming couplet. The shift between lines 12 and 13 is called the volta. That is an Italian word which means turn. It marks a point where things shift. The speaker pauses to reconsider the poem's argument, to propose a new idea. The volta falls very late in a Shakespearean sonnet. The speaker only has 2 lines to consider things, to propose new ideas. And so the voltas of Shakespearean sonnets often feel forced and unconvincing. But we also have to remember that the change of thought in the volta is so limited. That is, he only has 2 lines in which he has to sum up everything that he has to say. On the other hand, sometimes this abrupt artificiality can contribute to the poem's overall effect. By contrast, in the Petrarchan sonnet, an older form of sonnet writing, the volta falls between lines 8 and 9, giving the speaker much longer to develop a counter argument, to change his or her mind. In Sonnet 30, the speaker spends most of the poem describing setbacks, sorrows, and regrets. And while the speaker does proclaim in lines 13-14 that love restores all losses, a reader might feel like the power of the speaker's sorrows outweighs this hasty and conventional ending. A look at the meter. Sonnet 30 is written in iambic pentameter, the standard meter for the Shakespearean sonnet. Iambic pentameter has a da-dum rhythm. Da means stress syllable, dum means unstressed syllable, with 5 poetic feet in each line. The reader can hear this rhythm in line 5. They can, then can, I drown, and I unused to flow.